This segment of What's Up Kansas City is brought to you by 777 Construction. Call area code 816-349-1517 for your full service, residential, commercial, and remodeling needs. What's up Kansas City? I'm your host Glenn Bryan Frizzell. Today we are taping in the historic 18th and Vine Jazz District at the Lincoln Building, home of Cascade Media Group. Today's special guest is currently seeking election for the 2nd District Jackson County Legislature. He is from Indiana, but he is involved in community and civic organizations here in Kansas City, Missouri. Let's give a warm What's Up Kansas City welcome to Mr. Zachary Berkstresser.
What's up, Kansas City? Thank you, Glenn.
That's how you say it, Mr. Berkstresser. We're glad to have you here today. Let's jump right on in. What do you hope to accomplish, sir, if you are elected to the 2nd District Jackson County Legislature?
Well, Glenn, I'll tell you, the first thing I really want to do is take a look at those combat funds. We've got $23 million in combat funds, but we're only putting right under $5 million into prevention programs. Whenever combat came around, it was meant to keep kids off of drugs and create a way so that we don't have our community on drugs. And it's really turned into more of a police policy. The $19 million goes to the county prosecutor, the courts, the sheriff, and the police. So the first thing I want to do is look where we're spending that money and then come up with a plan to use it more effectively.
Will that funding go towards more anti-violent police task force funding or more anti-drug campaigns? Have you
Actually, Glenn,
thought about that?
What I'd like to do with the money and see done with it is additional funding for our local schools. Where I feel we're really falling behind is our career and technical education program. And I feel like if we give kids a way in school to create an identity for themselves, to figure out what they want to do and have a real job whenever they leave, and create these career and technical education programs, we're going to have less drug abuse because we have people who leave school fulfilled in a job they can actually enjoy and make a living at. So I think it's more getting at the root of things.
That's very interesting, Mr. Berkstresser. We have programs that address crime prevention, full employment, and these are good. But have we really opened the dialogue up about other forces in our community, particularly the inner cities, that prevent men from being men and taking care of their families?
I don't think we have addressed it. I think a lot of these programs skim the surface. What you have to do is treat the whole person as an individual. A class isn't going to keep any kid off drugs. I'm sorry, I just don't think that's how it works. I think the way you keep kids off drugs is to provide them a meaningful existence, hope for the future, and a way to do something with their lives. That's how you keep kids off drugs.
So the DARE programs that we had in school is a good first initial step,
It's
but
a good
we
start.
need to dig a little deeper.
Absolutely. We're just skimming the surface with that. What we're doing with DARE is giving kids information that they need. And I fully support DARE. We've got to have these kids informed as to why they don't want to take drugs. I would not dispute that for a second. But it goes deeper than that, and that's what I'm trying to delve into.
All right, Mr. Berkstresser, are you implementing social media into your campaign strategies at all? We at Cascade Media Group like to say that we are the wave of the future. The internet is the wave of the future, and the future is now. How important is social media?
Well, social media is how you reach out to everyone. You do it, it doesn't cost much of anything. Anyone can log on as long as they have a computer. You know, that can be a bit of an issue. But being able to log on and search those things out, you can connect with just about anyone who wants to connect with you.
I know a while back, I remember my mom telling me the Kansas City School District was working to socially implement computers in every household. Have we done the job in the early 2000s, the turn of the millennium, to where every child, every parent is equipped with the social media devices, or are we still lagging behind, particularly in our inner city?
Oh, especially in our inner city, we aren't there. We don't have food. We don't have food on the table. We don't have clean, healthy living environments. I mean, no, God, no, we don't have a computer yet. We're still working on it. There are so many steps before we even get to that.
Sounds like you will be in the game for a long time. Mr. Berkstresser, there are a number of committees on the Jackson County Legislature. 2nd District, you have the Anti-Drug, Justice and Law Enforcement, Health and Environment. Do you plan to get involved with any of these assignments?
Oh, all of the above. The anti-drug, obviously, since it's a big part of my campaign. But I see this as a job, and whenever you're given a job and it has certain parts, you address each of those parts equally. So I think they're all very important things that need to be addressed. Our policing has gotten out of control. Police are no longer members of the community that a child will run to talk to. our police are militarized and people are scared of them. We've got to step back from that. That's really a first step.
Okay, are you intimidated at all going into neighborhoods and trying to play police if you see a situation out of hand? In our church, they say if you see a child with their pants pulled down, you should be able to tell them pull their pants up. I don't know, I'm sometimes intimidated when I see a child that I don't know. Is that the same case with you? Do you have that interpersonal relationship where you can talk to children off the
Yeah,
bus?
I think that's something that comes from working in the Kansas City schools is no one scares me anymore. If I see something stupid going on whenever I'm around, I usually stop and say something. I live in the inner city, and driving through the inner city on a regular basis, I've come across some kind of crazy things, and I wonder what people are doing. A lot of times I'll stop and just ask. It's made for some interesting times. I've given some very interesting, turned out to be very nice people rides that people would say I'm crazy for. But I got to know a little bit about someone who I didn't share anything with until then. So stopping and talking to kids, not a problem. I actually kind of enjoy it. They usually have something funny to tell me after we kind of break the ice and they realize that just looking out for them, trying to help.
Well, thank you, Mr. Berkstresser, for sharing. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm 27. I'm a law student at UMKC. I did my undergraduate at Rockhurst University and worked for the Kansas City Public Schools for about a year and a half. I was at East High School, and then I went down to Manual to work for special education before I went to law school. Besides that, I live at home, actually, live with my dad. I was raised by my dad in a single family household, in a single parent household. So that's something that a lot of people, we deal with in the inner city, are single parent households. And it's a lot different.
Is your mom still around?
She is. She lives in Kansas City and moved here before I did. We all kind of just ended up following each other around the country. But ever since I was 6, I've only lived with my dad. And he never remarried, so it's just me and him.
You sound like a cousin that I'm trying to catch up with who's in the city. Actually, he's my father's cousin. Where were you educated? Just Rockhurst and UMKC?
Yes.
What organizations have you been a part of since you're still in law school, right?
Right, finishing it up. A little bit of everything. I saw law school. I wasn't super active as an undergraduate. I didn't do a ton. I worked pretty much full time through my undergraduate years, and didn't get to participate as much as I wanted. So whenever I came to law school, I decided to jump in head first with all the different organizations. So I've been on the Student Bar Association, which is our student government organization, writing different amendments to our law school constitution. My big accomplishment has been working with the American Bar Association. I'm the senior most member on the Board of Governors, and I chair our elections committee there and work with the SBA committee.
What is the Polar Bear Mock Trial Invitational?
That's a program for undergraduate students. I sat as a chief justice for that. They came in doing mock trial and had the law students and lawyers judge them and give them feedback. And
Was there an actual case where you parts of the case were disseminated, lawyers, attorneys, witnesses?
It was a hypothetical case.
Hypothetical
but
case.
it was tried just like a regular case would be.
How have values of education and hard work been a key component in your life, Mr. Berkstresser?
Education, hard work are just about all you've got, besides family. And the family's the one who really gives you the education, the work ethic. I was actually raised, you mentioned Indiana, and I went to high school there, but I was raised down in southeast Kansas on a farm. And so work is something that has just kind of always been there. I started my first job whenever I was about 6 years old, sweeping the floors at my uncle's shop. He repaired chainsaws and lawnmowers, that sort of thing. So I started working when I was real young, and I worked all through undergraduate, and then right into Kansas City Public Schools after. I think work is a very important thing for us, and hard work is an important thing for us. It helps shape your personality. Having that purpose in your life really defines you as a person. And outside of family, I think work is probably the biggest defining characteristic of a person.
What challenges, adversity have you ever faced or had to overcome in order to realize or meet your objectives? And you're still young, so
I am.
Still got quite a ways to go.
I'm sure there will be many more challenges to come. There are big ones and there are little ones. Whenever I started with the Kansas City Public Schools, it was a real culture shock. The school I went to didn't look anything like that. I went to a very small school. We were actually very racially diverse, but it was in rural southeast Kansas, so it was just a little bit different environment. coming up here and going to work at East.
I've driven through the rural towns before, briefly when I was a truck driver. You see the farms, you see the communities, and different experience.
It's a completely different experience.
Looks like.
Oh, it is. And I really didn't realize how much of a different experience it was until I started working in our schools. That's whenever I said, these people aren't crazy whenever they say there's a problem. Everyone that's speaking up and saying, Kansas City has issues, our children have issues, the schools have problems. Whenever you're not in it, you're quick to dismiss it. But whenever you get in there in the trenches and see it, it's whenever it starts to hit home and you start to realize that something absolutely has to be done. It doesn't need to be done, it has to be done. That's why I'm sitting here today. Adversity is something that we will all have adversity in our lives. Things will come up that won't be easy. That's what shapes us as a person.
Bishop James Tindall, who withdrew his name from the August 2nd ballot, he's a hard act to follow. He's sitting in the seat that you're seeking right now, the Jackson County 2nd District Legislative Branch. He served in a number of years, has built up different community ties to the community through organizational work and civic leadership. Is that a hard act to follow? You feel any pressure?
I absolutely feel pressure. I particularly feel pressure because I'm the reason James Tindall withdrew his nomination. I filed the suit asking him to withdraw, to resign from his seat and withdraw. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true. So I have big shoes to fill, and so it's on me. I better not screw it up. His commitment to the community and the partnering with the different nonprofit organizations, I think, is just essential. I absolutely applaud him for what he did there. And given the opportunity, I absolutely have to continue that myself. The nonprofits provide a voice of humanity, reaching out that the government just can't do. We've all been in line at the DMV. The government is not warm and fuzzy. And sometimes we need some warm and fuzziness, which is what those non-for-profits do that we've partnered with. So they are big shoes to fill, and I know I'm going to have to work hard to do it, but I appreciate the legacy that's left for the 2nd District.
You felt it was important to file that particular petition. Why?
Honestly, because it's written out right in our election code. No felon may hold office in Missouri. And unfortunately, Mr. Tindall met that description. I actually didn't know it when I filed. I went in and filed the run, just kind of blind young kids, and this would be neat. And I started doing, reading up on things and Googling it and reading around, and I came across it and I said, I thought I read somewhere that you couldn't be a felon and hold office. And turns out it's true. And so I looked it up, and there were 2 people who could enforce it, either a candidate running or the Jackson County prosecutor. The Jackson County prosecutor hadn't, and I said, he's done good work, but is it fair to our constituents? We should all be playing by the rules.
Now, I don't have my LexisNexis glasses on, Mr. Berkstresser, but I'm told by some of our viewers, constituents, that you can be a felon and run for president and Senate and other top positions, but you can't in Jackson County Legislature, as you discovered. Should we put energy into changing that?
Absolutely. I think it is a little silly. It's at the state level. The state of Missouri has decided that felons can't hold office. So it's a state thing. I don't know that it makes a lot of sense. I don't particularly stand by that rule. I think people have problems and they move on. I really do. And so is that something that needs to be addressed? It probably is.
Alfred B. Jordan, attorney, is also running. Mr. Berkstresser, why should voters cast their ballot for you?
Sure. Alfred Jordan is a very smart man. He's very affable, very nice guy. The difference between Alfred and I is I have the time and the energy to do this. Don't have any kids, still in school, and after I get out of school I'll be doing private practice, so it's more my own schedule. I really think there's a lot we can do in Jackson County, and that hasn't been the attitude of the county legislature for the most part. We've seen it as a department that builds roads and pays the sheriff. And I think there's a chance to be an agent for change in the Jackson County legislature. And maybe it's because I'm young and haven't been jaded quite yet, but I think I can be that. And I think it's important that I at least put it out there and see if people agree with me. Losing to Alfred Jordan or any of my other contenders is nothing bad. They're all very accomplished, very, very smart men.
When is the election?
August 5th.
August 5th. So you guys, we have summer and the rest of spring to do your research. And any final words?
You can catch me on Twitter at VoteBerk. That's VOTEBERK, because my last name is so long and won't fit on the Twitter handle. You can find me on Facebook at Zachary Berkstresser for Jackson County Legislature. And I have my website, voteberkstresser.com, which I'm still learning out, trying to figure out how to use.
Awesome. We've been talking to a very intelligent man, Mr. Zachary Berkstresser, about his background and his candidacy for the 2nd District Legislative Branch of the Jackson County Executive Services. Can I say that?
The Jackson County Legislature, yep.
That's the icing on the cake. Mr. Berkstresser, you're definitely going to have to come back and talk to us after the elections. Keep us informed.
I look forward to it.
Let our viewers know what you're doing. I'm your host, Glenn Bryan Frizzell. Check out more video online at www.whatsupkansascity.net. And remember, the sky is truly the limit. Aim high. Shoot for the moon. If you miss, at the very least, you would have landed among the stars. Take care. Till next time.
CMG wants you to always remember, the victory we call success goes to the best prepared. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Thanks.